next, it's everyone's favorite video game discussion show. An all-new GameView starts right now.
Hey guys, welcome to GameView for October 2017. As usual, I'm Scott.
And I'm Roxie.
Tonight on the program, we're talking Fire Emblem Warriors, GameCube Controller Support on the Switch, Mario and Luigi, Superstar Saga, and the dinosaur in the room, Super Mario Odyssey. Up first, Fire Emblem. Roxie, you excited?
About as excited as I was for Hyrule Warriors, which is to say, not a lot. Mainly because it's a hack and slash game, which is fine in its own right, but there's been a lot of stuff going on around Fire Emblem Warriors specifically, about Nintendo not caring about the older games and not putting in the older characters, and only using characters from like the last 3 games before Shadows of Valencia, and it's just, it seems like people will never be satisfied, even though it's a Fire Emblem title game. It's just something for people to whine about. Personally, I think games like Fire Emblem Warriors, like, it's a fun time waster, because like, I did enjoy playing Hyrule Warriors, but I only enjoyed it as a time waster. It was nothing I wanted to like, sit down, focus on, and say, I gotta beat it, I gotta know what the story is.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I saw a little bit of footage of the game, and, I mean, the graphics aren't bad. I mean, they're pretty impressive, especially the number of enemy characters that are on screen at any given point. Didn't really seem to be, too much of a problem in terms of lag or, like, frame rate or anything like that. The voiceovers, I mean, I'll be honest, the dialogue is kind of cheesy, but,
I have seen a bit of the support conversations, and those were pretty funny. They were really quality. Like the, Chrom and Ryoma just talking to each other, where it's basically the same voice actor, Matt Mercer, just having a conversation with himself, and that was pretty funny.
Those are always fun.
And then there was the support conversation with, Leo from Fire Emblem Fate's Conquest, and Frederick from Awakening, where Frederick's just telling him about, how his collar was inside out like 36 times since he had met.
Oh, yeah, I kind of remember that from the Fates, series. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look too bad of a game. I mean, at least from what I saw, it was weird, because originally I thought it was, just like you said, it was a hack and slash game, and it does seem to be like 90% hack and slash, but then there's also this 10% tactical element. Like, you have the option to change weapons, and, you know, you can level up the characters to increase their stats, so I thought it was kind of neat.
Well, yeah, they did something similar with Hyrule Warriors, where you had the different weapons that you could use going into a match, and you could level them up, and the more you level them up, the more damage they deal, and the more health they have, but at the end, it's just the same. It's just a Warriors game with Fire Emblem skinned over it. I will admit, though, I liked how they did manage to keep the weapon triangle in this game, though, making your weapon choice, depending on who you're fighting, in a one-on-one situation, which almost never happens, a very ideal thing that you want to prepare for. So I did like that.
Yeah, it's nice that they took a lot of elements from the actual series. The strangest part, though, is that I guess in a sense, with this whole Warriors franchise, there seems to be like a lack of consistency at the moment in terms of, like, like, with normal games, right, you would have, like, a sequel, whereas, like, Fire Emblem Warriors, it's not really a sequel to Hyrule Warriors, it's just, like, another game in the Warriors franchise, and the weirdest part about it, to me anyway, is that it's releasing on both the 3DS and the Switch, and on the 3DS, you can still play Hyrule Warriors, but there's no Hyrule Warriors version on the Switch, at least not yet. So,
well,
you know.
To be fair on that, that's because there was a Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U. And the 3DS version didn't come out until, what, over a year later?
It would be interesting if they actually managed to release some version of Hyrule Warriors and at least, port it over to the Switch, and that way you have, like, 2 games in the Warriors series. People can choose whether they prefer, like, a Zelda-themed Warriors game over Fire Emblem, and then, maybe in the future they'll do, like, another franchise, and then you pick the one that you want, right?
Also, I will say this. The Dynasty Warriors is a series. They have their own sequels. It's just that things like Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors are just one-offs that aren't meant to have any tie to it. It's just taking the same formula.
Overall, though, I will say that it looks pretty good. It's... Again, I never really gone into the hack-and-slash type games myself, so... First off, I guess the question I should be asking, is this game worth $60 MSRP, and what are your thoughts on the Season Pass, if that's worth the extra money?
I had no clue there was a Season Pass for it, so I don't really know what that entails, but I personally wouldn't pay $60 for this. Mainly just because it's not my type of thing. But then again, I also wouldn't pay $60 for Hyrule Warriors. I would much rather wait until the price comes down when it's like, $40, or even when it's super cheap later on into its lifespan where it's like $20, where you can get it pre-owned at a GameStop or something.
I'd agree with that. On top of that, since the game is mostly first player only, like one person really, I would say that the price would most likely drop quicker than other games that have, like, multiplayer elements and have that increased longevity. So overall, though, I will not be buying Fire Emblem Warriors. How about you, Roxie?
I mean, if I get the money for it and the price is reasonable, I might consider getting it if I'm bored with all the games that I've currently finished playing. But buying it as it is now, no, probably not.
Okay, makes sense. Now we move on to our next topic of the night. The newest Switch software update released a bunch of patches, fixes, and among one of those things, something I know you're really excited about, the fact that GameCube controllers now work on the system.
Well, they've always worked, they just never worked properly, and they never worked if you had an official GameCube adapter. Up until now, you had to have the Mayflash adapter, which was like a third-party thing that you could use with a PC, and you had to have a specific driver on that Mayflash in order to even somewhat use it on the Switch. But in the 4.0.0 update, Nintendo added a bunch of USB support for, like, headphones, I'm going to assume, like, hard drives and whatnot. But the major thing is they added official support for the GameCube adapter, which means that games like, just for example, Sonic Mania, Breath of the Wild, are extremely playable. However, something like Breath of the Wild, you won't be able to play 100% because, naturally, it's a GameCube controller that you're wanting to play with, and it doesn't have that ZL button. And the C-stick and the control stick, they're not clickable, so you can't crouch or zoom in. You can't raise your shield or Z-target, which is, in a way, a major loss, but other than that, the controls are extremely fluid, and it feels great. But with the, like, actual official support, that the Switch now has, this leads into speculation for things like, will we be getting GameCube Virtual Console soon? And I am on the biggest hype train in hoping that GameCube Virtual Console will be a thing where you can use the GameCube controllers with the adapters.
Honestly, I think that is what they're working towards, because, I mean, how many times in the past couple of years alone, especially with the Wii U, you've seen people all over the place asking for GameCube VC titles, and we knew that the Wii U could play and emulate the GameCube titles. It's just nothing official was ever released by Nintendo. Now, though, with the Switch, and especially with this 4.0 update, with the official support, it really feels like when VC does come out, whether that's, I'm assuming, late 2018 or 2019 or whatnot, we will have some type of native support for the GameCube, which is really amazing.
Just even the thought of the Switch being able to play GameCube games through Virtual Console just makes me incredibly happy, because the GameCube is my favorite console. It had a lot of my favorite games, like Thousand Year Door, Pokemon Coliseum, Gale of Darkness. It had the original Wind Waker, and it had the left-handed Link version of Twilight Princess, which so many people love. And so, it just makes me extremely excited to see that we might be getting that through no official word, but official support, given that they never even went out and said in the Switch's patch notes, which I find that extremely weird, that they didn't like just say, hey, now you can use a GameCube controller.
Yeah, it might be something that they don't want to really talk about at the moment, but, I mean, let's be honest, Kimishima was president and CEO of the Pokemon Company during the GameCube era, so it feels like it's something that he personally wants to get in, but he doesn't want to really get everyone's hopes up this early into the Switch's lifespan. But I mean, actions speak louder than words, and at this point, I mean, everything that they've done indicates that at some point we are going to get it here.
There is something that I do want to bring up that a friend of mine made a very valid point when he and I were talking about it earlier, where you would have to have a USB-C to USB adapter if you're playing on the go, which may be true, or if Nintendo does these right, which I will admit Nintendo's done some pretty good things when it came to Virtual Console controllers, because, you know, when you had the Nintendo 64 Virtual Console games on the Wii, you had all these different controllers that you could use to play the 64 Virtual Console games. So it's possible that they could be using, that they could, if they do come out with a GameCube Virtual Console, that they'll be bringing Joy-Con support for the GameCube as well, which means we'll be able to, like, play it without having to take our GameCube controllers with us if we wanted to go on, like, a long car ride.
That'd be pretty neat. I'm just excited to finally get the GameCube titles out, because it really feels like it's been forever, but, you know, knowing that this is most likely in the works, for some future update, if you do need to get, like, some type of adapter or, you know, some type of extension just to get a GameCube controller to work with it, I'm guessing you're 100% for it, you're gonna get it, right?
Oh yeah, if I have to, then I'm gonna definitely get one. Oh. Just so I can play my Virtual Console games in handheld mode. Like, because it would really suck otherwise, but, I mean, what else can I do if I want to play Virtual Console handheld? For GameCube, specifically.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out, but, so far, I think they're on the right path here. Okay, so, our third topic of the day, something that I am really excited about here, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. What are your thoughts on this game?
I loved it and I hated it at the same time.
How do you hate this game?
That final boss fight, man, it made me so angry. I eventually beat it. I eventually did beat it, but it just made me so infuriated, if that's the right word, because, like, I just kept getting screwed over. But it was very fun. I did love it. And because I never did beat the original, but I have seen the original, and I can admit that it was a very great remake for a Mario and Luigi game, where they did a lot of really, really nice quality control, or quality of life things, for the new version that the older version didn't have.
This game is literally a 10 out of 10 on my list. Just to give some backstory on this, okay? All of you guys already know I am a huge fan of the original Paper Mario games, prior to that sticker star and color splash nonsense. But I never really got into the Mario and Luigi franchise until, I think it was Dream Team came out in 2013, and the only reason I got into it in the first place was because of how Intelligent Systems wrecked Paper Mario, and, you know, it's been such a long time between, you know, Super Paper Mario and, you know, I guess, like, 2013, so, like, 6 years. I was hoping to finally get a game similar to what Paper Mario used to be. So, ever since that point, I have been buying every single Mario and Luigi game as a day one purchase. That includes Dream Team, Paper Jam, and this new remake of Superstar Saga. Of the three, I would say Superstar Saga is literally the best one out of all the 3DS Mario and Luigi games, and it must be because it goes back to the original, but like a lot of the features in this game are literally identical to what I would, you know, be dealing with in a Paper Mario title. You've got a turn-based system with action commands, you have different abilities, you've got the Super Hammer, the Ultra Hammer. They weren't present in Dream Team or in Paper Jam. You've got original characters outside of the Mushroom Kingdom. You've got a funny story, funny dialogue, and I think the best part about all this is that as I was playing through the game, I'm almost done. I haven't beaten it yet, but I'm almost near the end right now. And it feels like the length of the game, it could easily be a home console title. Like, more recently, especially with, you know, the previous Mario and Luigi titles, I don't know if they shortened the length of the single-player stories, but it seems like Superstar Saga, at least for me anyway, you could just put this on a home console and you could easily be looking at 30-40 hours for full 100% completion, and I'm just having a blast with it.
It's such a fun game. Like, I remember playing it when my cousin had it when we were younger, and on the Game Boy Advance Micro. And whenever we would hang out, we would just have so much fun playing it, even though we had, like, one of the hardest times getting through that border patrol with the jump rope. But it was so much fun.
Superstar Saga's remake is like everything we would want out of a Paper Mario title, minus, I guess, the partners, and if you really want to be technical, the badge system. But I was talking to you about this before. If Alpha Dream, or not if, when, because we know they are working on a Mario and Luigi title for the Switch, when they do come out with it, literally, all they would have to do is just add in, like, a third partner, similar to Paper Jam, I guess, with Paper Mario, but just have, like, a third partner that you could swap out with, like, 6 or 7 other characters, each with their own abilities, and bam! You've got Paper Mario right there. And seeing how angry the fans have gotten with the release of Sticker Star and Color Splash, myself included, I can sort of understand why Alpha Dream chose this moment to do a reboot of the original, because obviously people want a turn-based, you know, Mario game in the style of the older, you know, Paper Mario titles, and I guess to an extent, like Super Mario RPG. And the other thing, too, that I wanted to point out, because I also brought this up, too, is that it feels like, and I'm just speculating here, but it feels like the reason they did a remake of Superstar Saga instead of creating a third unique title for the Mario and Luigi series on 3DS was because of the fact they want to get something out quickly that they knew the fans would want, so then they could focus the dev time and their resources on making a Switch version. Because otherwise, you know what would have happened, right? I mean, it probably would have taken an extra year for them to come out with another unique story and all that. They would have released it in 2018, last year of the 3DS's life cycle, and then we probably wouldn't have gone to Switch version until 2020 or 2021.
And that's fair. That is a fair statement, because I was starting to agree with you, despite, you know, not fully agreeing when you first mentioned it, because I still believe that the 3DS will go on past 2018. I won't say that's the last year, but this couldn't have been a more opportune moment for them to do a remake of this game. Because like you said, it gives people what they've been wanting from Paper Mario without it being a Paper Mario game. It gave the fans something quirky and funny.
Yeah, it's not only that though. It's like everything in this game. It is literally a Mario JRPG gamer's dream come true. I can't really emphasize how much I'm enjoying it here. And I know there's been some criticism online just from, you know, the hardcore fanboys saying, oh, well, they took out some of the previous original characters, like, what was his name? What was it, Gino? Or...
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I was going to mention that too, because I am a little bit disappointed that they took out Gino, because that wasn't necessarily an original character to Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. It was that he was an original character from from Super Mario RPG, which is what a lot of people like Gino, and a lot of people wanted to see more of Gino, and we never got to see him until Superstar Saga came around, where he had that cameo appearance, and then again in Smash Bros. On the Wii U and 3DS, where he got that costume.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can understand why people would be upset. I'm still a little bit upset, and I would like to know why he was removed, because I don't see a reason for it. If it was something to do with Sega, then that would be understandable. Because Gino does belong to Sega. He is one of their characters.
Yeah, I can see, I mean, maybe there was a licensing issue, and I, don't get me wrong, I completely understand, but I think from my own perspective, like, because there are so many different original characters in this game, different civilizations, different enemies, it doesn't really feel to me like they're taking a huge part out of it. And some of these people online, right, like another comment was, oh, well, they changed the design of the Doctor, and, you know, one of the female Toads, they removed her. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, and here's another thing. One person even went so far as to compare the change in characters from the Paper Mario series, right? Like, you know, going from the original TTYD and SPM to the generic Sticker Star and Color Splash, even taking that image and comparing that to the original Superstar Saga versus the Superstar Saga remake, and I'm thinking to myself, that's not even accurate, because we're talking two completely different situations. On one hand, you have intelligence systems literally replacing, you know, every unique Toad and character out there with generic Toads and generic, you know, Mushroom Kingdom characters. On the other hand, you have Superstar Saga that has so much personality and so much diversity in its cast and the characters that, you know, people at some point, it makes you wonder if you're really starting to nitpick just a little bit too much, if you get what I'm saying.
I get it, and I can understand where you're coming from, but like I said, I can understand where they're coming from as well. And it's not just that Geno was replaced with, like, a generic character, it's that he was removed outright. Where he has no presence in the game at all, but he was replaced with nothing. Because before, he used to be a character that explained the minigame in Little Fungi Town. And now he's just nothing. It's just a disembodied voice. Which, in a way, really sucks, because it's like they're basically spitting on Geno's face, saying, well, he never existed, so forget him.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, for me, though, it has not taken away any of the experience, though. I mean, and again, it could be that, you know, just because I never played the original. But, I mean, so far, I absolutely love this game, and I can't wait to even get into the Bowser's Minions part afterwards when I'm done the main story. But I think the more important thing, though, and this is what I really hope, and unfortunately I don't think this is going to be the case, because, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, intelligence systems seems to have lost their intelligence, no pun intended, but with Alpha Dream creating a reboot, right? So this is the 6th Mario and Luigi game that has been released, and it's a reboot of the first game in the series. Well, there have been 5 Paper Mario games that have been out so far, right? If this game does well for Alpha Dream, and so far, the numbers are looking good. I mean, the reviews are in, the critics love it, I mean, so far the sales are doing well. I would hope that Tanabe and Intelligence Systems looks at this, maybe some of their own employees buy this game just to play it, to check it out, and see what all the fuss is about, and then maybe something clicks in their head to the point where they would say either, okay, you know what, we're going to remake a previous Paper Mario title. And we're gonna see how well that does. Or, you know, they'll think, okay, now I understand why people don't like Sticker Star and Color Splash, because the combat that Alpha Dream has included in Mario and Luigi is just so much better, and now we understand why the fans want something like that, you know, for a Paper Mario title. And
well, here's the thing, right? And not to knock on your favorite series, because I know you love Paper Mario, but, and you saw my experience firsthand, if they remake anything other than Thousand Year Door, people will be mad. If they remake the first Paper Mario, people will be upset. Not everyone, not the same amount of people that would be upset if they were to remake, say, Super Paper Mario, but everyone's favorite is Thousand Year Door. Yeah. That's without a doubt. So even if they remake just the first one, people will be upset. I'll kind of be a little miffed because you saw my experience with the first one. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I do not like the first Paper Mario.
I don't know if any of this is even gonna resonate with them, to be perfectly honest with you, because until someone just magically flips a switch in Tanabe's brain and he realizes why the series really has a loyal fan base, especially with TTYD and SPM, I don't think anything's gonna change. But the one thing that it's sort of a good news and bad news scenario, and I just want to bring this up again, because if you guys remember, I don't remember if this was at the beginning of Sticker Star or at the beginning of Color Splash. It may have been Color Splash, but one of the reasons given between the direction the Paper Mario series took versus the traditional RPG elements in Mario and Luigi was because Mario and Luigi was, at that point, a handheld-only series, and Paper Mario was a console-only series. So I can sort of understand why they want to differentiate the two, but here's the problem with the Switch. The Switch is a handheld console hybrid, so this could lead to Tanabe potentially thinking to himself, okay, well, if we want to release a Paper Mario game on the Switch, and Alpha Dream is also going to release a Mario and Luigi game on the Switch, well now, because both franchises are on the exact same console, now we have to do something to differentiate Paper Mario from M&L. And,
well,
that may lead to, unfortunately, another type of innovation that is unwanted in Paper Mario. But, yeah, I hope I just want
to remind you that it's also not solely on Tanabe. Because the reason we got a game like Sticker Star was because of Sakura. Or not Sakura, that's Smash. Because of Miyamoto. Because he didn't think that story belonged in a Mario game. And that story belonged in Zelda. Which, is really dumb when you compare all the amount of Mario games we've had with such a great story behind it. Like, we've had Super Mario Sunshine, we've had Super Mario 64, we've had RPG, we've had... And I'm not talking about games with, like, implied story. I'm talking about outright story where you're given the plot from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, basically all the 3D Mario games, all the Mario and Luigi games, and all of the Paper Mario games. But the reason we had what we had was because of Sakura's view on it, versus whoever was the director for Thousand Year Door.
Yeah. I would say, based off of what I've read online and I've seen in terms of just the internal discussion by the Intelligent Systems dev team, I would say it's almost a 50-50 split between Tanabe and Miyamoto. Because, on the one hand, yes, Miyamoto, and again, I don't want to go too much into this because, we've already talked about this to death, but basically Miyamoto's the one that basically looked at Sticker Star, or what Sticker Star was originally supposed to be, which was a game like TTYD. He complained that it was too much like TTYD and they needed to switch things up, and that's why Tanabe decided to take a different approach with it. But at the same time, you can't really, ignore the blame on his part, because Miyamoto wasn't really involved in the development of Sticker Star at all. Like, all he did was really play the game. He said it was too much like TTYD, and that was it. But Tanabe was still the executive producer. He was directing the Intelligent Systems team to produce it. So, ultimately, if he wanted to, he could have just ignored the advice of Miyamoto and just, done what all the fans wanted, but he chose not to, and that's why we got what we got. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think it's safe to say we're looking at least another 3 years minimum before we get a Paper Mario on Switch. And like I said, with both Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario on the same console now, I mean, I would hope that, you know, I hope we'd get something like TTYD or SPM, but to be honest, I mean, I can see the writing on the wall. He's going to come up with some argument saying he needs to differentiate the two being on the same console, and, you know, Paper Mario's going to be something completely different yet again.
I do want to point out one last thing, which will lead us into our last little bit of segment 2, is that while Miyamoto initially did not want something with a story in Mario games, which is, if I remember that correctly, is what he ended up saying, we are getting, with Mario Odyssey, something akin to our Mario and Luigi games, or Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and the first 3 Paper Mario games, where we're getting original characters, original stories, and hopefully something with, you know, a bit of humor in there. Because that does look like what we're gonna get with Super Mario Odyssey.
This actually is a great segue into our last topic of the day, but I agree 100%. I got an email from Nintendo advertising Odyssey as being able to explore a land far away, and I quote, far away from the Mushroom Kingdom, unquote. And that alone sold me on the game. Just having an original area to explore, brand new original characters, not just sticking to the traditional Mario Mushroom Kingdom type, you know, universe. This is what gives me hope that Nintendo is starting to branch out and realize, hey, having creativity and originality in the games is not a bad thing. I mean, it only helps to expand the fan base and really to, you know, get away from just doing the exact same thing over and over and over again.
Exactly, because that's my problem with current Mario games, is that they're just the exact same thing over and over and over again, with nothing to differentiate them from anything else. Like, take let's take Mario 3, where we had a lot of new, we had a different type of story, we had creative, fun levels, where there was really no one way, no one way to play them. You could play them however you wanted, right? But now, in current Mario games, it's, you get the fire flower and that's what you have to use for that level. Or you get the ice flower and that's what you have to use.
Yeah.
It's all too formulaic. And it's like they don't want to, you know, go back to that type of style where you could go in with any type of item and complete it, or complete the level, and that be it, and have a lot of fun doing it. Now it's just like, oh boy, I got the fire flower, so now I know I'm gonna be using that to, you know, burn through Goombas or something.
Yeah, I mean, it has gotten to that point, unfortunately, where it's a little bit too obvious. That's why I'm always open to giving players choice when it comes to video games, right? Having an open world area where you can choose which level or which area you want to go in first, like Zelda Breath of the Wild, right? You can choose what weapon you want to use, you can choose how you play the game, and just not only that, right? Just having the originality in there. There are certain parts of Odyssey that are familiar. Obviously, Bowser's kidnapped Peach, right? I mean, you know, that's something that has happened before, so we all know that. But just, you know, adding in those original areas, giving you the options to choose where you want to go, how you want to play the game, original characters, there's so much creative talent at Nintendo EAD, and it makes you wonder why we haven't gotten something like this up until now. But now that we do have something like this, this is why everyone's really loving this particular game here.
Well, this also worries me too, because open world is fine and all, but open world can be done to death. And open world can work in things like Zelda, and in a way, I guess, it can work in certain types of Mario games. But here's the thing. If they do something like, let's say they do end up making a brand new Paper Mario game with a new coat of paint, new characters, new everything, I feel like it would harpen this or dampen the story a little bit if it was just pure open world. Because that was one of the best things about Paper Mario, was that you had to go through the different worlds, right?
Yeah.
And you had to do them in order to progress. And it gave you that sense of progression, which doesn't exist in these open world titles. Like Breath of the Wild, for instance, when I played it, and I've played it a load, I've never felt any major sense of progression.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I guess the only way you would really notice the progression, in a sense, would be getting the stronger weapons, but that's sort of a counterpoint to running into stronger enemies, so I can see where you're coming from.
And that's my major worry, is that they'll try to do open world to death, and then the games just won't be fun.
It could be. I mean, I know we're going to talk about this in a couple of months, but I don't know if Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is open world, or if that's more linear, but
I think they've said it's open world, but I'm not too interested in Xenoblade Chronicles.
Okay, so maybe that's like the third open world-esque type first-party title for the Switch, I guess. I don't know. But ultimately, though, I'm just happy that they're letting the team show their creativeness when it comes to this. It's definitely a game that I'm gonna get now. I know a couple months ago when it was originally announced and we saw a couple of the promos for it, I was sort of on the fence, but now I'm pretty much leaning towards getting it. Probably not a day one purchase, but I will definitely get it for sure. I think you're getting it as well, right?
I am going to get it as well, but unfortunately, due to money problems, I won't be able to get it day one. But I will say, if you do have a Switch and you're very interested in Mario games, it should definitely be a day one purchase.
Yeah, I think the Switch is going to do very well during this Christmas season, just with the number of first-party titles alone that Nintendo has released this year, including Odyssey and Zelda. Yeah, we need people who have worked on Odyssey and on Superstar Saga to move to the Intelligent Systems team. That's all I'm gonna say. Aside from that, any final notes you want to end off on here, Roxie?
No, I think I've said everything I want to say.
Okay, perfect. Alright, so that concludes our discussion for October. As always, we will be back next month talking about some more brand new first-party titles. Of course, I think the big elephant in the room is going to be Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I know you're pretty hyped about that.
Kinda. I am excited to see what's going to go down with it.
Alright, last Pokemon games on the 3DS, but we'll get into that next month. And that's it, we're done for tonight. Remember, you can get the latest announcements and updates on your favorite TOONDISE programs by visiting the all-new TOONDISE.com. Also follow us on Twitter at TOONDISE, #GameView. And if you enjoy what we're doing, you can show your support on patreon.com/TOONDISE and also by hitting that like button. Until next time, I'm Scott.
And I'm Roxy.
And we'll see you later.